Deep Dive by Global Heroes, your go-to for the real stories behind real heroes. Get more inspiring content in your inbox with our newsletter, and be sure to follow along on social media. Okay, so for today's deep dive, we're unpacking this really interesting set of sources on Lanark County in Canada. And the immediate hook, for me at least, is the geography. You know, it's less than an hour from Ottawa and Kingston.
Right, it's close.
It's so close, but every single source describes it as feeling, and I'm quoting here, worlds away. So our mission is to figure out how it pulls that off. How is it this robust winter adventure spot, but then it also claims this completely different title when the season changes?
And I think the sources are pretty clear that the landscape itself is the answer. It really dictates the whole identity of the place.
You mean the Canadian Shield?
Exactly. We're talking about the Canadian Shield. It's a geology that creates, that challenging terrain for trails, but it also provides the mineral-rich soil for these massive maple forests.
Oh, okay.
So this whole deep dive really has to be framed around that, how that one foundational resource supports, well, both the winter economy and the local culture.
Okay, let's start there then. With the winter activities, the sources put a huge emphasis on mobility.
Right.
These well-maintained snowmobile trails, especially the Ontario East Rails and Trails routes, they're designed to give you these sweeping views, over rivers and farmland. It's all about covering that ground quickly.
And what's interesting is how that same demanding terrain makes the slower options just so rewarding.
What do you mean?
Well, for you, if you're looking for something more peaceful, you can strap on snowshoes or cross-country skis, places like Murphy's Point Provincial Park or the Perth Wildlife Reserve.
Okay.
And those paths force you to slow down. They take you deep into those maple forests, those wetlands. You actually have to appreciate the landscape.
And of course, there's always downhill. They mentioned Mount Pakenham for skiing and lessons for anyone who wants a bit more gravity involved.
Yeah, that too.
But this is where it gets really interesting for me. The sources all pivot pretty quickly from that intense outdoor effort to the reward, what's waiting indoors.
The cult.
Exactly. The heritage towns, the preserved streetscapes. It's like this cultural relief from the cold.
It is, and that deep history, especially the region's economic roots, it's such a fascinating counterpoint to the modern adventure tourism.
Right.
You can literally go from the Mississippi Valley Textile Museum and see its industrial past, and then, drive over to Wheeler's Maple Museum to understand its natural resource history.
So they're preserving both sides of their identity.
It's a conscious economic choice, is what the sources seem to suggest, a commitment to heritage.
And that choice really seems to pay off in the food scene. The sources are so specific here. They name spots like Black Tartan Kitchen, Michael's Table, the Sterling, North Market, and they all build menus around local producers.
It's not just farm to table, it's forest to table. It has to be, given the climate.
Totally. And we can't ignore the craft beverage scene either.
Yeah.
Cartwright Springs Brewery, Top Shelf Distillery, perfect for a cold evening.
And you see it all come together at the community events, like Perth's Frost and Fire Festival in February. It's just a classic example of what they're all about. Artisan markets, music, toasting marshmallows. It's that shared warm experience.
Okay, so what does this all mean? Where is this all leading? As winter starts to ease off, the county's entire identity seems to shift.
It does.
And Lanark County is explicitly and very proudly named Ontario's maple syrup capital.
And this is where it all comes full circle. That title isn't just, some marketing slogan. It defines their entire seasonal economy.
Because of the Canadian Shield.
Exactly. The high mineral content from the Shield is what makes the sugar bushes come alive in late winter. One source describes the evaporators billowing sweet steam and that first golden pour tasting like pure promise.
Wow.
And that's when you see maple everything start showing up on menus across the county. That's when the local food culture hits its peak.
So what you're left with is this really unique destination, this powerful blend of wild, rugged adventure on one hand.
Right.
And then this deep-rooted, sweet-tasting local heritage on the other. And it's all tied to the seasons. The sources even note some great places to stay that mirror this, from Cavinscape to the Monty.
Yeah, that contrast is absolutely crucial. The landscape demands these high-speed snowmobiles and tough snowshoe paths in the dead of winter, but then it needs that gentle late winter warmth to actually tap the sugar maples.
That's a great point.
It just raises this important question for you to think about.
Hmm.
What other small-town destinations have a major identity that is entirely dependent on the transition between two extreme seasons? And, how does that yearly pivot actually shape their entire sense of community?
That's it for today's deep dive. Want more? Stay connected with Global Heroes through our newsletter and socials.